Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. Today we are looking at 1987's Mephisto vs. Issue 1. This was a prestige format book, stapled, not perfect bound, and the paper quality is significantly higher than the regular newsprint, which is what made it $1.50 instead of the usual, I believe, 75 cents or $1 at the time. So this is actually a slightly more grown up story, even though it is approved by the Comics Code Authority. At this time they were starting to stray pretty heavily, testing those boundaries because the 80s really broke out of the Comics Code. So this time we've got the Fantastic Four investigating a access hole in the basement of the Baxter building when Franklin suddenly jumps out of bed screaming, "No, Daddy, look out." And at the same time, Mr. Fantastic shoots up out of the hole and a giant whoosh of flame comes up and almost scorches everyone and even hurts Johnny Storm, who is immune to fire. And Franklin runs up to them and says that he had a bad dream that Batman was going to hurt him, but he doesn't go into any more detail. The next day, Ben Grimm is making sure Franklin brushes his teeth, and when they come out, they find Johnny Storm smooching with Alicia Masters. The Thing, of course, had an interest romantically in Alicia, and she bounced back and forth between Johnny and the Thing around this time. But then they both say a snide remark to Ben, Franklin, and Ben gets mad and takes a swing at Johnny, and the kid runs off. Johnny and Ben continue to fight, and suddenly Johnny seems to dissolve, and Alicia says something to him, and poof, Ben is gone. Meanwhile, Johnny Storm and Alicia Masters are at a tennis match, interestingly, and the tennis pro says something smart aleck to Johnny, who's narrating what's going on to Alicia. Well, Alicia's blind and the guy doesn't care. Johnny flames on, losing his temper, and appears to have killed the entire crowd with fire, and suddenly he's gone. Then we've got Willie Lumpkin dropping off some mail to Mr. Fantastic, but there's a past due bill, and it's in his other mailbag. Reed goes to get it, and whoosh, he's gone. The kid freaks out because Willie Lumpkin looks all sinister. He runs to Sue and says, "Mommy, Daddy got killed. Willie Lumpkin killed him." And Sue says, "What are you talking about?" And then whoosh, some flames take her too. She-Hulk, who was a member of the team at the time, because the Thing had gone into reserves, I believe, tries to comfort the boy, and she's like, "I want my mommy and daddy." And then she says that can be arranged. The ground opens up and she throws him down into HE double hockey sticks or wherever Mephisto lives. And that's when we get the big reveal of Mephisto sitting on a throne made of stone looking over the captured Fantastic Four. Now that's when we learn that this is a revenge plot, because what happened last time he met the kid, and the kid hit him with a mental blast, and that was in Fantastic Four issue 277. And back then they actually footnoted when things happened, so you could go hunt that issue down if you really needed to read it. And we learned that Mephisto had been knocked down and knocked into the realm of the Dire Wraiths, which would have been Limbo. So he had been tapping the energies of the Dire Wraiths, and that occurred in Rom, I believe in the 50s and 60s, the Wraith War. And if you haven't read that, I highly recommend reading Rom, because he's one of the greatest superheroes ever. But that was when Marvel had Rom as a character. Then we discover that Mephisto wants a contract signed for the boy's soul. And it's a contract similar to what the Thing signed in Secret Wars 2, issue 8. Well, the Thing breaks free, screams at him, and charges him, but Mephisto strips his skin off to reveal this ghostly demonic form that he says the Thing has inside of him. Then he banishes Johnny to the flame pits where he can torment others, and claims that he has a claim on Reed Richards' soul, which is a lie, of course, but he's tricking them so that he can get Sue to stay behind, and that's what happens, unfortunately. And that's where the issue ends. The rest of the Fantastic Four are teleported home, and he's got Sue at his disposal for whatever nefarious scheme is coming up in the next issue, where he will confront X-Factor. Now, I have to say, this is a great book. It's a little dated because of the way people talk, but it's not too bad. This is written by Al Milgrom, art by John Buscema, inks by Bob Wysack, letters by Rick Parker, George Russo's does color, Ralph Macchio, editor, and Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. And special thanks to Fantastic Four consultant Roger Stern. So we had some great people working on this. This was not anybody slacking. The cover's by Bob Layton, and I absolutely think that that is a great dynamic cover for the series. I don't know why this hasn't been reprinted as a trade paperback, because this miniseries was actually bringing together a lot of different references from the 80s, and it ties in very nicely to a lot of stuff that went on in Fantastic Four, Avengers, X-Men, and X-Factor at the time. And we're going to see more of that as we go through the other books, because each book focuses on a different team. This is a definite must-have for hardcore Marvel fans, because if you read John Byrne's X-Men, or John Byrne's Fantastic Four, or Chris Claremont's X-Men books, you'll want to get in on these stories, because these tie into those books and reference them pretty heavily. But it was a great miniseries, a much darker, more adult theme. It was an interesting concept that hadn't really been done before for a 4-issue limited series. So I really like this book. I thought this was really well done and still holds up really well, and the art is great. It's by a great team, so if you get a chance to check this one out, I highly recommend it. It's not an expensive book. You can usually find it for less than $3 or $4. So, and because it was on nicer paper, it does hold up a little bit better than the newsprint stuff. Go out and track this one down if you get a chance. I highly recommend it. And we'll look at issue 2 in a day or so, and hopefully it has held up as well as this issue did. In the meantime, that'll do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. Be sure and hit like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, etc. Thanks for listening.